ground. A low contrast figure on a high value ground. Okay, this is a high value ground sheet. And now I want something that is low in contrast, not much different from that sheet. If I put white on white, that's no contrast. That's zero contrast. So white on white doesn't work. So I look for the next highest value I can put on here. And here is one excellent way to put a rectangular figure on a square ground. It's still dominated by all these light values. And I have a light gray on a white ground. That is high key or high value composition with low contrast. So what happens when we move to column 2? I want to put a medium contrast on essentially a high value ground. So the row across is all high value. So if you think about it, you can write white in every square. And in fact, in column 3, row 1, number 3, you'll find that it's already set out for you. What makes a high value composition with a high contrast figure? Well, bingo. That's as high a contrast as you can get. If you chose a dark gray, you wouldn't be far away. Dark gray is significantly darker than the white background. But this would be your best answer. This is the highest contrast you can have in a composition. That's all light. A light value composition with a high contrast figure. So I'll put these back. So that brings us back to column 2, row 1. We want a medium contrast. So I could use some of these big squares here, medium contrast. Well, that was our light contrast. This is a medium gray. We'll try that. And the answer is bingo. Yeah, that's middle contrast between white and black. That's the contrast. You can write in middle gray on that one. So those seem easy now. So I'm going to start down at box number 5, which is row 2 and column 1. Row 2 is middle value overall. Here's our middle value. We're done with white. That was row 1. Middle value will be represented by sheets of paper that are very close to middle value. I gave you this color value sheet. I also gave you a lighter value sheet closer to that one. But I want you to use that sort of more middle value sheet. It's still a little light, but it falls into the middle. So here's our middle value ground sheet. And now we want to build a middle value with low contrast. That means there's not much difference in value between the ground and the figure. Well, what happens when you put gray on gray? Technically, if you squint at this, it may disappear. You might have to make your middle contrast by going to light gray or to dark gray. So when you work with a middle value composition, there's 2 different ways you can go to build contrast. You can go towards the light side or go towards the dark side. But the contrast will never be as great when you start from the middle as they are between the 2 extreme ends. These have a lot of steps apart. And choosing any one of these for your contrast would work for high value or high value contrast. The only thing that will produce a low contrast is maybe a low light gray or a high dark gray. That is also a choice for values that are low in contrast there. But if you like, just stick to the original 5 up here. But it gets more and more complicated when you work with middle values. Middle values are tricky. It's easy to make contrasts with the other ones. Okay, I'm going to jump down to row 3, and we will try a high box number 11. We're looking for high contrast and low value. This is a high value. This is a middle value, and now we're using our ground sheet of a dark value. And we want high contrast, a big difference between the figure and the ground in value. This is the ultimate answer. That's the highest contrast you can have on a black background. But somewhat less in contrast, but still offering lots of difference between value would be something that goes up in that high range, like a high light gray, or even a light gray. So that's how you fill out the rest of the sheet. The figures are placed on these 3 ground sheets that you will be using. And those ground sheets are the background for your compositions. So let's take a look at this composition, for instance. A high value composition, overall, mostly light, falls in the light zones. And what do you think about the contrast level? Is that a high contrast, or does the darkness of that one section take it down to a middle contrast? There's something more happening because of the darkness of the value in that square. And I think I would probably consider this high value, medium contrast, high to medium contrast. You can equivocate, take a look, see what it looks like to you. This happens to be paint on paper, and this is a non-objective composition. So the other things you have to keep track of are the shape categories that you use. You're not going to be using rectangles on a square. You're going to be inventing the shapes. So here's another composition, and it is primarily low value. So overall, it's closer to black. And I'm taking a look at it and trying to evaluate just how light do those values get. Do they get pretty high, but they're not that high. Most of it is still dominated by dark. So I would refer to this as low value, medium contrast. You could possibly get away with low value, low contrast. So let's take a look at low value, low contrast, and see if there's a better example of low value, low contrast. Let's try this one, for instance. Is that any improvement? Maybe, maybe not. Low value, low contrast. I'm shuffling through my pile of student examples. Low value, low contrast. How about that one? Still some middle values in there? How low can we go? No pun intended. Let's see if I can get another one here very quickly. I know I'm going to have to edit out all of this. Ah, here's something a little closer. This is the grid, which is shape category F. That's a grid. low value, predominantly dark with low contrast. There's no whites or grays, middle, maybe a little bit of middle gray, but that's pretty much just pretty darn dark there. Over here on the light end, I've got a high value, low contrast composition, and it is a drawing of a cube in graphite. Graphite is notoriously light, or can be controlled that way. And let's try another one. Here's one. In the middle value range, or is it in the high value range? Where would you put this composition? Middle value or high value? Started with a white piece of paper, but there's high contrasts on it. So depending upon your notion of middle value, this still, I think, falls into high value, high contrast. That would be the answer for high value, high contrast, box number 3. And I'm looking for some more cards here. Here we go. Here's one that shows circles in a grid. Overall, it's middle value, and they have included lots of white and black and middle gray. You could call that a mixed contrast, or you could call that middle contrast, middle value, high contrast, because they go all the way to white and all the way back down to black. Here's a high value, low contrast composition, and this one is even more. That is even more contrast. What I want you to do is to please use lots of values in your composition. Do not just give me black and white. I want 3 to 4, or as many as 5 steps of value, and those steps of value come when you manipulate the composition and the media. So this one happens to be graphite. This is a non-objective drawing. And they've gone all the way down to as black as their graphite can get, but overall, the composition is a high value composition. Here is a middle value composition with possibly a middle contrast. If they'd added a little bit more white with this medium, this is chalk on the surface. If they punched up that a little bit more, it would be good. But that's a particular value range. And you are to decide the overall value level and the contrast level while working with ink wash. So here are 2 organic volumes in ink wash. Anytime you get a volumetric expression like planar forms or forms that cast shadows that are depicted as volumes, you will be creating a volume. So you'll be doing the work, full-time work of an artist. Here is an abstract cat. Abstraction is one of the categories. Most of it falls into the gray zone up here, and the contrast is medium. Another middle value composition with an organic shaped object. I don't think it's the biomorph, but it could be an organic. And they went all the way up to white chalk and then down to low value, so that you could, if it was a little more punched up, the contrast would be a little higher. I'd call that a middle contrast. So when you're working with pen and ink, know that that ink is really going to get black, but that you can dilute it to make very, very high values. So here's a lovely little abstract tree in ink wash with high value, high contrast, middle to high contrast. And I'll let you equivocate. Call the contrast. If you're a nuance person, enjoy the nuances in these compositions. Okay, hopefully this will help you. The next video coming up will be after you make your color wheels, how to do the value scales, how to decide where your value scales hue lies in the overall value scale. And I'll stop now.